At 78, a man I had known for 40 years told me he had not had a real conversation with anyone outside his immediate family in over a year. Not because he was unwell, because the habit of declining had become easier than engaging. And he had declined his way into near total isolation without ever making a single conscious decision to isolate. That is the habit I want to talk about today. The habit is slow withdrawal from social connection. It is the most consistently destructive habit I have watched operate in the later years of people I knew and loved. More than poor diet, more than lack of movement, more than any other single thing. And it is completely invisible while it operates, because it never announces itself as withdrawal. It announces itself as a series of individually reasonable decisions. That is what makes it so dangerous. The man I mentioned had not decided to become isolated. He had decided on each individual occasion that he was too tired or not in the mood, or that the effort of going somewhere and engaging with people he didn't know well was more than the reward justified. Each individual decision was reasonable. He was tired. Some of those events would have been effortful. The preference for a quiet evening at home is not irrational. But 3 years of individually reasonable decisions had produced a social world of almost nothing. His conversations were limited to his wife and the occasional visit from a child. He had not seen most of his friends in months. He had declined so consistently that people had largely stopped inviting him. And the cognitive cost was visible to me from across the room. The man I had known as sharp, curious, and quick to engage had become slower, less interested, more repetitive in his thinking. He had aged, not physically but cognitively, in a way that looked like 10 years had passed in 3. He had not made a single conscious decision to do this. He had made 3 years of reasonable individual ones. I am not a doctor, but I have watched close up and across many years what sustained social withdrawal does to the mind of someone in their later years. The thinking becomes repetitive. The same subjects, the same stories, the same opinions rehearsed rather than developed. The range of interest contracts. Fewer things provoke curiosity. Fewer things seem worth the engagement. The ability to follow a complex conversation, to hold multiple perspectives, to be genuinely interested in someone else's experience. These capacities quietly diminish. It does not happen dramatically. It does not happen suddenly. It atrophies the way a muscle atrophies, quietly, consistently, and in the direction of its last use. The mind stays sharp through use. Social engagement is one of its most demanding and therefore most strengthening forms of exercise. It requires attention, responsiveness, the navigation of ideas and emotions that are not your own. Withdraw it, and you withdraw one of the primary things that was keeping the mind performing. The people I know in their 80s and 90s who are still cognitively vivid are almost without exception people who have remained in genuine social contact with others. The correlation is not subtle. The reason this habit is so difficult to catch is that it never feels like a habit while it is forming. It feels like a series of honest assessments of your own energy and preferences. He is genuinely tired tonight. The event genuinely sounds effortful. The people there genuinely are not his closest friends. Staying home genuinely does sound more restorative than going. None of these are false. None of them are irrational. In isolation, each one is a perfectly reasonable response to a specific situation. But the pattern they build, practiced once a week for 3 years, is isolation. And the person building it does not see the pattern because they are inside it, evaluating each occasion on its own terms rather than watching the accumulation from outside. What usually makes it visible is someone else's observation. A spouse who notices the contraction. A child who realizes visits have become the only social contact. A friend who suddenly calculates how long it has been By that point, the wall is already substantial. It is not impossible to dismantle, but it is considerably harder than preventing it would have been. At around 70, having watched the pattern operate in enough people I cared about, I made a rule for myself. The rule is simple. I do not decline 3 social invitations in a row without accepting the 4th, regardless of how I feel about it when the moment arrives, regardless of whether I am tired or uncertain about the people, or genuinely uncertain whether the evening will be worth the effort. 3 declines, then I accept, without negotiation. I want to be honest. Not every engagement I have accepted under this rule has been rewarding. Some have been effortful and unremarkable. I have come home from some occasions feeling exactly as tired as I predicted I would, but the rule has prevented the pattern. It has kept the muscle in use. It has kept me in regular, genuine contact with people beyond my family, which means that when an occasion is rewarding, and many of them are, I am present enough, interested enough, and practiced enough at engagement to receive it fully. Build the rule before you need it. The time to make this commitment is not when the withdrawal is already underway. It is now, while the habit is still preventable. The most cognitively alive and physically robust people I know in their 80s and beyond are not people who happen to have good genes. They are people who have fought consistently, sometimes against their own preferences, to stay in genuine contact with other people. A woman I know at 88 who has dinner with friends every week regardless of how she feels beforehand. A man of 91 still attending a discussion group he has been part of for 22 years. People who have made social engagement a structural feature of their week rather than something that happens when the conditions are right. The connection is not incidental to their vitality. It is a primary source of it. I have watched isolation accelerate decline in people with every other advantage. Good diet, good sleep, good access to medical care. And I have watched consistent social engagement sustain people through physical challenges that should, by other measures, have reduced them significantly. It is not optional. It is maintenance. Treat it that way. Every individual decline is harmless. I understand that. The pattern of decline is not. By the time the pattern is visible to you, it has usually been visible to the people around you for some time. And by that point, the habit is already established and the wall is already being built. Make the rule before you need it. Decide now. Not when you are tired and facing a specific invitation you don't feel like accepting, that there is a limit to how many times in a row you will say no. Accept the next invitation, and the one after that. Not because every engagement will reward you, some will not, but because the muscle only stays strong through use, whether you feel like it or not.